Here we are, we're together again after a really long time. So welcome back, sisters. Welcome to this space. And it's so amazing to see you. I want to welcome our audience. Thank you for being here. And thank you for following us as well when we were doing lots of roundtables and being part of our journey, and you obviously being part of ours. And this is an amazing I don't know, let's talk about what this is actually right now, sisters, what's brought us together, what each of us felt, and why we're here today, and what you feel like is important to bring through and to share. So thank you. So amazing to see you.
Awesome to see you. All of you, my goodness. Yeah, I mean, what brought us together, I feel when we all met in Glastonbury, it was incredible. I was at a conference there, and I got the message from both of you that you were passing through or you were close. And it just so happened that Christian got rerouted. You were going to go to a retreat in Wales, and all of a sudden you ended up with Tara, and you were able to meet me at a cafe, and we were like, gosh, I miss the roundtables. We were all just saying that to each other. And so I've not been back very long, and here we are making it happen. And then Nina, of course, being such a part of the Divine Feminine roundtables, and just throwing out the message to all that would be a part of the greater gathering that we've manifested in the past. Magenta just wanted to say she really wishes she could be here. It's just been a lot of work for her lately, and just the need for rest. But yeah, so that is what I feel a lot of the inspiration was. It's just all of us being together. We planted a lot of seeds for the future, and it's just very important that we come together and do this more often. It's just been too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, just jump in, just go ahead. I'm really excited to hear from all of you what brought you here. Story. Yeah,
I'll jump in then. So it was so amazing because during this Lionsgate, I went through my own really huge process around reclaiming this peace within the divine feminine in myself, which I feel like was something that all of the women and men that serve the divine feminine are going through. It's like this energy, daughters of heaven energy, souls that have always served the divine mother are coming fully landed. And it was interesting because the message I got was that this tried to land in 2020. And that was kind of when we all came together first. But the patriarchal energy was too hard. It was pushing it back. And I know like a lot of us got deleted, and it was challenging. And it was amazing because when this energy came in, all of the angels came in and they said, it's safe now to fully anchor in this energy because this is what the planet is fully supporting. And so anyone that's not lined up with it is kind of going to go through like a karmic whooping, so to speak, or be deleted, because it was like the energies of the planet no longer support the patriarchal control. And right then I saw all of us at the round table in my spirit returning to our seats at the table. And it happened to be the day, apparently, that you were all in Glastonbury with each other, which is so amazing. And the message the Divine Mother said to me was, I'm bringing my daughters back together. It's my table, and I put you all there, and I'm bringing you back because there are things coming, and there's things for you to share, and it's safe again now. So I just think it's amazing because in a couple of days, it all physically came together. And we didn't do this, and from the beginning we didn't do this. It's always been so divinely orchestrated, and I just think that's just so magical and gorgeous and amazing.
And what I find interesting as well is that we are all very different types of people as well, with very different ways of communicating, and not just with each other, but also with what comes through. And I think that makes the dynamic quite juicy generally. And what came up for me as well is that when we started doing this in 2020, I remember that I was full of beans about the whole thing because everything was going to pot. And yet I had these high hopes for this massive global awakening. And I think it was a chance for a massive global awakening. And looking back now, it's been 3.5 years, or just over 3 years since then. And there's also a part of me that's now coming to this realization of, oh wow, it wasn't as big an awakening that I at the time was excited for. And I feel like I've changed quite a lot in that time. I feel like there's a certain naivety that I had around how it was going to be that has kind of gone, and I feel like I'm a little bit more raw about the whole thing, and especially seeing what's happening just simply on day-to-day basis when you walk down the streets. How many people have gone into a whole different timeline that is not aligned with that light, and that's kind of why Tara and I came up with, like, hey, we need to do another roundtable, because we were both saying to each other when we arrived in Glastonbury, like, it feels to me like I'm looking into another timeline. It's like there's two timelines going, and I'm not engaging so much anymore with the other timeline. It's more like I'm an observer of it in a way. And we were also saying, like, for a while it kind of felt like that we thought we'd lost our empathy. I think we spoke with Laura about that as well in a cafe, that I thought I don't have any empathy anymore. Why does it feel like I'm just looking in and I'm not moved by? And funny enough, just before this circle, a few hours ago, I went to the post office. And there was a woman in front of me who was being served by the post office lady, and she was being absolutely horrible to the post office lady. And I wasn't even listening to what was going on, because I was again going into this I'm looking in kind of thing. It's just so strange. And the post office lady started to cry. She was like, I don't understand why you're being so horrible to me. I don't understand. And normally my heart would just go, oh, and I would have a go at the other woman, probably, why are you doing this? And da, da, da. But it was like there was a glass wall between me and what was going on there. So yeah, I just thought I'll bring it straight in there, like, yes, I believe there's a full on, shift happening still. I still see it, but at the same time I'm also quite taken aback by what's that split that's been happening in the last few years.
Chrissy, we talked about this, but I want to say I feel really, really similar. I actually found myself, because I've been living in Brighton for about the last 15, 16 months, and since coming back from France. And I found myself, like, a couple of months ago, just walking through this part of town, and my nervous system was getting really, really on edge. And I was looking around just going, I feel like I'm the only one awake in a zombie apocalypse movie. You know, those horror stories where you suddenly realize, or the heroes or the person suddenly realizes that everything isn't normal, that it's completely twisted. And I was like, does nobody else notice how completely wrong, not just weird, but outright wrong, everything looks and feels around us these days? Maybe it was just that part of town, but it was like, I was proper like, oh my gosh. And I mistakenly, instead of getting a taxi straight home, I got on a bus. So I prolonged that experience for another half an hour, sitting on public transport, just going, what am I doing? I had to meditate and deep breathe and, like, use all my tools and connect. And it was really weird. And it was like that. I've been different since then. So what you're saying about that sense of no empathy, it was like, I know I'm super empathic, and it's not like I've stopped caring, because obviously we care, like, hugely, massively, or we wouldn't have lived the lives that we've lived, right? And yet that sense of distance, like, I get more emotional watching something on telly these days, and more empathic than I do. And it sounds really horrible, like I'm really mean or something, but I'm literally feel completely removed from it, like it's just not real. Exactly like you said. And I was checking myself going, have I switched off? Have I become a horrible person? And then you said the same thing. And then Laura, we talked about that in Glastonbury, and it was like, okay, who else feels like that? And I'm interested to hear from many of our viewers who are feeling something similar, maybe got a different way of saying it, or, you know, because I wonder how many of us are really feeling that disconnection. It's like unplugged from one old reality that, you know, we were pretty, you know, not fully immersed in anyway. But now it just feels like the plug's been pulled out, and that plug has to be firmly put into that, whatever we want to call it, fifth dimension, new earth, love, reality, truth, you know, whatever you want to call it, but that we want to see, that which we are here to manifest and create. And just one more thing I want to say, Chrissy, on the 11th of August, and this is the day that you were in Glastonbury, I think, Laura, with Magenta. And I knew Chrissy was going to a retreat in Wales, but I woke up that morning, and soon after I woke up, I had a vision of yourself, Laura, Magenta, and Chrissy and I sitting around a square table in a cafe in Glastonbury, all of us together. And I was like, I'm going to call Chrissy and say, Chrissy, I think you need to be in Glastonbury. You can't go to Wales. And I was like, no, she really needs a break. She needs to go and do that retreat. I'm not going to. And then you ended up there anyway. And we ended up staying in Glastonbury. And it was in that morning when I had that vision, I was like, we need to do a round table again. And then obviously tuning in on Nina. And then Nina called up a couple of days later. And like, haven't heard from you from ages, Nina. And then she's on there, she's calling me like, hey, we got to reconnect. And I'm like, this is so perfectly aligned. So it feels like Divine Feminine Roundtable 2.0 for whatever's coming next. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you guys on the sort of disconnect. It just feels, when we talk about bifurcation, it's not like, you know, the two timelines are going to split like two highways. And it's like, but in a way, energetically, that's how it is. And energy comes before physicality. So however that plays out in the long run, I mean, I feel there's a bridge between the two. We're still witness to the trajectory of a timeline that isn't like a doom or gloom or a fixed reality as far as the outcome. I feel there's a lot of opportunity for those souls to wake up and to snap out of it, snap out of the trance. I sometimes feel it'll take a life review. I feel that soul is infinite no matter what. And the unconditional love of creator is always going to help steer that soul home. Is that possible in this particular incarnation? And when we think of all the different cycles of incarnations, dark cycles of history, and everything that we've ever endured as a human species, we always have an opportunity to rise above, to heal, and even when we see the larger picture of, just how ETs interact. I mean, I feel like these are aspects of us, some that are encouraging our awakening and some that are challenging us to see the trajectory we could possibly go down as engineered and modified beings if we don't kind of snap out of it. So we always have those opportunities, but I feel, more the observer. I feel it was a little bit easier to have the passion and the empathic, which is still there, but the empathic interest in really feeling into things in order to navigate how I would best approach this particular time, feeling very connected to a greater mission, starting from a young child. Like, you know, how do we go about this? I mean, we can only be a resource. We can't shove it down anybody's throat. It's very personal to each person's, you know, soul journey. But I think the energetic investment, it's like when a choice is so determined within an individual, where you know that nothing under the sun has been enough, you know, it's going to end up being a drain. It's going to end up compromising me and my energy field, because it's just going to hit a wall. And what's the point in beating my head against an energetic wall? Whereas when there was some kind of opening or possibility, do all we can, as long as the lifeboat is there and people are still in the water raising their hand, and there's an affinity and an equal exchange of energy. It's like, it's a co-creation here, but those that have jumped onto another boat are being consumed by these narratives. There's a point in which, one has to kind of move on. And it's not like I'm giving up on anybody. In the larger picture, I know everyone's going to be all right. But it's the investment on an energetic level that I've had to check myself in even before it got this bad. But now it's a little bit more like, our higher minds are in charge here. We're integrating it into the physical plane. And I just feel I'm just answering to what my intuition is telling me and just guiding me. And I need to trust that, because like you, Tara, I'm like, gosh, you know, what are these changes in me? Okay. Am I like apathetic even? I mean, I know I hit some of that energy here and there, but I feel the empathic overload that I still contend with is like events in Maui or anything connected to children. I mean, that kind of larger picture intent on mission is always going to be there, but the one-on-ones and the observation of what we're seeing society morph into, it's like, I just want nothing to do with it. And people are defending their captors way too much. And it's just, what more can one do? So that's kind of my 2 cents. Because I feel like we influence the larger picture just in our consciousness, how that connects into the collective. And yeah, I notice how much sinking into frustration and anger would be where I'd be at if I overly invested in the ones that have, if they haven't turned around at this point, it's certainly not probably going to come from me. I mean, I'm putting out a book, and then it's like, part of me just wants to go live in a cave after that. Like, all right, it's my last attempt. And it's not an attempt to just, oh, I'm right and anybody's wrong. It's just being more mindful and conscious. You know, it's sort of like seeing a friend in an abusive relationship, and you want to do everything you can to say, don't you see the red flags? Like, you know, you just want to protect them, and help them to find their self-worth outside of this dependency bond with something that is leveraging the vulnerability of that individual because of unconscious wounds, or because of just falling for a facade when all the signs are there that there's deception and betrayal. It's I kind of see it like that. And then at a certain point, one just has to let go. And I just feel the need to tend to my energy, because I notice how much I feel injured when I overly care, and the empathic overload becomes too much for me to even want to get out of bed. That's not good. So how can I show up for anyone in that state?
Totally, Laura. And I think that's leading by example as well. Like, we have to, you know, our own oxygen mask, then others, and actually getting ourselves really in integrity is super important. And I just want to recap, because well, you said a lot of amazing things there, but one of them, you said that everything that we see is us. So there isn't a them and an us. It's all us. It's all versions thereof of us. I think that's what you said. That's how I see it, at least. And also that everything in this universe, or known universe, will seek to come into harmony with itself eventually. Like, the souls will come back into all of us come back to harmony. We must. That's part of the way this universe works. We get far away from harmony, and then we come back to it eventually, and we're all infinite. So not to get attached maybe to the lifetimes, this lifetime, this body, but just know that all rivers flow back to the sea. Is that? Yeah. Thank you.
Well, yes. And that greater trust,
right?
That greater trust is everything. You know, source energy, the unconditional love of the mother, of the father, the Christ Sophia divine template. We're encoded with that. It's within us. So it might be dormant, it might be asleep, it can't be destroyed. It can be altered as far as the way our ego attaches to the distortions. Once we break the distortions, everything begins to flow again, and the body can overcome and transmute and alchemize and neutralize and heal. So it's just a matter of when that moment's going to happen for that individual. And there's an infinite amount of possibilities and opportunities. It just might be harder to undo the further down that road they get away from it. But that's the magnetic force of the love bond between us and Creator that I feel will override the temporary distraction of the personality matrix that has been so groomed and indoctrinated.
Yeah, and then of course you have the aspect of the dramas. You know, part of withdrawing for me is also that a drama will always be there. A narrative or a storyline of a drama will always be around you. And it's up to you whether you're going to tap into that and get into that cycle, that lower dimensional cycle of constant drama upon drama upon drama, which I think is part of this whole, the trap of keeping us here. So I think part of, for me anyway, of thinking, oh, have I lost my empathy? You can't lose it, because it's when you have consciousness and you are a conscious being, of course, you feel connected to everything. So, but it's also for me choosing not to engage in loads of dramas, and they always tempt you, don't they? They always come in where you least expect it. It can be work related or relationships or whatever. And I find personally myself now, for instance, I'm for the first time in my life in a stable relationship, and I can see old patterns sometimes coming up where I go, yeah, but that first impulsive thing that you want to do. And I've been really looking into it, especially because my partner he's not interested in entering into that space. And in the beginning I was like, but we have to sort this out, and it has to be. And then I realized, no, it's just tapping in on another drama, a storyline that's already been played out many, many times. And I've realized I don't have to do that. I don't have to always be processing stuff. I think that's part of the lie. Yeah. It's like there's always something to process. And yeah, you recognize that then, Nina.
I super recognize that. I've everything that you guys, sorry, finish, and then I'll jump in. You finished? I can jump in. Okay. I really recognize that, because it really is all an illusion. This is the place that I've been sitting in more and more. And we really have a choice what we participate in and what we don't participate in. And what I've been looking at, in my own vulnerability, is that place where that Sophia mother archetype is so strong in me, where I was sort of really wanting certain souls, come on, being the mom and taking on way too much than I should be taking on. And she literally came in just like a few right during the Lionsgate, was like right after that, and she was like, let me just remind you of something. I am the divine mother, not you. You're a part of me, but it's not you, it's me. And if you step out, because this is the other thing that I've realized, is that some of us that are such strong pillars of embodied light, our presence around other people, they can kind of hide behind that. I don't know if anybody else has realized that, but this has been my big aha. So whether it's in a relationship or friendships, you may be the person that they kind of just keep coming to, or that without realizing it, you're carrying their load without even realizing it. I've been personally becoming aware of, it's not just empathing physically, but empathing streams of consciousness. Because when we are such an interconnected being, sometimes it's hard to know, where do I begin and where do I end, because we're all in this together. And it's also at the same time, this is an aspect of the collective, me, that has forgotten it's a part of the collective that's playing out this drama. And the most loving thing I can do is say, I love you and I totally respect your choice, and I'm going to step out because I'm being called to play out, right? Stay in my lane. So I feel like right now, one of the most important things is to stay in our own lane. And the other kind of big, strong realization I've been having is, I was in a Walmart, and kind of what you guys were talking about, it was surrounded by people and energies that I was just like, oh, it was like, get your juicy juice here. And the energies and the vibrations were so chaotic. And the Divine Mother spoke to me as I was standing in there, and she said, these are all my children. And you're not here to empath what they're feeling and let it overlay what you feel within me. You're here to hold the resonance of God realization that they all eventually will come into. And when you do that, and when you remember them what they've forgotten, there's something in them that will naturally line up with it. So I did that. I just stood and I held the remembrance everybody in there is a child of God, and they've just forgotten. And reality shifted. It was amazing. So I'm more on this track right now of realizing this is the inner mystery school. Everybody wants to go to the mystery schools. This is it, guys. We're in it. And we're learning Jedi advanced lessons of how do I stay centered and stay in that meditative space and stay in connection when I'm surrounded by insanity, and not judge it as insanity, but remain neutral and love it. That's it. So that's
exactly what I was trying to say. What you just said is exactly what I mean. That's it. It's almost when people talk about 0 points, it's living that within this absurdity that is happening, which is really overt at the moment, much more overt than I've ever remembered it to be. But yes, yeah. Sorry if I interrupted you there, but I just...
No, I'm laughing because then there's the Buddha behind the curtain laughing, going, aren't we hysterical that we designed this for ourselves to have some of the biggest lessons in ascension, and to have this biggest, like, wow, well, that I got past that lesson. So let's see how extreme we can get here, because there truly are some there's a group of souls that signed up for some very high Christ Sophia types of lessons. And so we are living those out. You know, we've sort of like put ourselves on the cross, so to speak, to resurrect every single moment. And it's amazing.
I love that. Lessons in ascension. You know, one can have a great understanding, but where is the density weighing one down? Even if one is awake, it's like, where is the heaviness like taking on too much? I mean, where is it too much?
Yeah.
I mean, that neutrality is everything. If that's what we're getting into, it's sort of like so-called awake people who are getting into the divide and conquer and not realizing that they haven't fully arrived in what a higher dimensional earth looks like, as far as integration of polarity, more neutrality, not engaging in the battlefield, coming from negative ego, coming from just a place of wanting to elevate the self at the expense of others. I mean, there's just so much that one can be awakened to, but how much is it embodied as a energy? And how you can, you know, lead by example by elevating yourself to the next level of unity consciousness, sacred union, and embodiment, because we're sorting through the information. That's been a huge prerequisite of navigating the lies, the deceptions, the distortions, the programs, the social engineering, the ancestral patterns, rewritten history, the stuff that we weren't exposed to, that we're like remembering as far as our galactic history and who we are capable of becoming based in what's been dormant, what's been scrambled, what's been unplugged, how the planetary grid network has been affected. Okay, so now we can sort of go from there. And I feel it's a lot less about the information. And now it's like, okay, we've got enough to go on. Let's be embodied now. We know that this is what's been targeted. So in the light of that, how can we protect this sacred space, knowing how vulnerable it is to psychic warfare or spiritual warfare or targeting or attacks or archonic forces wanting us to be in a trauma loop, or how that might be targeting our friendships and relationships and partnerships. You know, can we build that extra muscle? Can we work on what needs to be worked on to strengthen ourselves in light of that and become that override frequency? That to me is the ultimate challenge that we're all up against.
Yeah, and it's an ultimate challenge, and at the same time, it's also the most simple thing I've ever seen in my entire existence.
I know.
The unraveling is literally coming back to the simplicity, and it is childlike simple, and it's us who have made it into this big mission. Even the whole idea of learning lessons, it's, to me, it almost feels like that word is almost not fitting anymore. It's almost like, no, you are all of it already. It's indeed just becoming conscious the whole time, just becoming conscious. That is the learning of the lessons, is becoming the conscious, and then moving into a much more simple state.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think, just even the word mission is, it's like maybe bulldozing through the heaviness of it all, the lies, and or just feeling, yeah, you're not going to fall prey to being anything but yourself. But that's, maybe something that we place upon ourselves. I mean, I have a mission to stay true to myself and be a resource, for others as far as what I've learned along the way. But it really is the only way we can win any kind of war is within the self, because it's a war on consciousness. It's a war on belief systems. It's a war on our capacity to move beyond the gatekeepers and the frequency fences. But yeah, it's like some of those words are, it's just, it's all so simple. It really is.
And
Love.
is there a place in consciousness where there is no war? Because even that I find was like quite stressful, and it's a drama. And it may be true in the duality realm of things, it is true. But then it's like, coming back to the sacred neutral, the 0 point, that's been super strong lately. And it's like that energy of source, of total 0 point, just keeps pulling my focus back really quickly. The moment I start hesitating about veering off over there or over there, and the magpie syndrome with the shiny object, come and look at this thing over here, drama, and this thing, and maybe you should go over there, and whatever it is, it's like, it feels like my mother is walking me home, like, no, focus.
Yes.
Like, just. And what I've heard from the Divine Mother and that Gaia for many years now, and I feel it's worth repeating because it's still true, that all her children come home. That's her command. So if God, the Divine Masculine, let's just say, Divine Masculine, Godfather, said, children, you have free will. You're created with free will. And even our will can, trump God's in a way, because if we don't choose to come home, and we don't choose to, heed the warnings and heed the boundaries, and we have to go through stuff, That's our, experience and being in the human body. But the mother's will trumps the child's, and it's like, no, you're coming home. You will come home. And it might be a bumpy, rough ride to get back home because you've been so far away and you got so lost. And it might take a while, depending on where in our souls we've been, where in our consciousness we've been, how far away from ourselves, from that home we have been, from that source vibration, that knowing that we are. And so, yes, we're going to have different time frames that we all come home, but we will come home, and we are coming home because the mother commands it. And that just feels like, maybe you talked about the magnetism, Nina, so beautifully. And it's like, yeah, that magnetism is like, it's pulling us through something. And I feel I've been reminded, and I think it was when Chrissy and I ended up having that weekend in Glastonbury together. It was so brilliant. We were downloading all this stuff and all this remembering and rekindling. And I was remembering all of the visions, dreams, premonitions, memories of all the different ways that I've been shown, or let's say shown, what's happening and why we're here, or why I'm here, and on the bigger picture. And there was a constant theme of coming out of the matrix, the prison reality that doesn't look like a prison because there's no bars, but it's a complete prison, and it's a trap, and we call it the matrix. You can call it, whatever name. And then there was that moment where little alarms went off for all of us, almost like a telepathic alarm or a feeling, where we just went, now's the time. And we just knew, and we looked at each other, not just us, but all of our soul tribe, our similar frequency us's. And there was just a collective knowing. It was like something switched, and we went, okay, it's time to get out of this now. And we have to peel back this piece of scenery that looks like a real piece of scenery. It looks like the real world, but actually it's a curtain, just like what's it called? The Truman Show, when he walks through the door. But mine were veils and all kinds of, you know, scenery backdrops and interesting things in all my dreams and visions and memories. And it's like that moment where you pull back the curtain and you go behind the curtain and everyone's going through, and then we close the curtain, and then that's it. We're actually in a different experience, different version of reality, different timeline, whatever, you know. Some people, I don't know if everybody can relate to timelines and dimensions and things like that, but a different experience where it's not like it's not happening, but it's like that sense of separation from it.
Yeah, it's like, Nina, you say realizing it's all an illusion. David Icke always says to realize it's all bollocks, and you know, he says it the way he says it. But I think that's quite an important aspect of, you know, what you say, that veil, just moving that curtain to the side. I have a question for you, something that I'm wondering, is that I find that since people have been jabbed, can we say that? I have noticed that my dream space, because obviously I'm not jabbed, but I've noticed that the dream space has become a lot more astral, and I'm seeing a lot of lost souls in the dream space. And an article has recently come out, I think I've sent it to you, Tara, where a whole load of therapists, healers, have done a longitudinal research to see what has changed since their patients have been jabbed. Do you have to cut that out yet, or are we still getting censored for that? And what they've seen is that the soul is not fully connected anymore to the vessel, and I'm wondering if that's why my dream space is so strange. You know, I'm visiting places where people that have died I've had a lot of people dying last year. I see them and they're still as if they're on Earth, but they're not on Earth, and they're just living their lives as if it's all still going on. And just out of interest, I'm wondering if any one of you has had any insight on that, and also where they currently are, because it doesn't feel like they're out of the matrix to me at all.
That I'm going to jump in on that. That's really interesting, Christy, because I've been having a lot of dreams where I'm down in like tunnels, subways, dumbs. But this has been going on for me for a long time. So, but it's increased, and now it's like, and this is what's bizarre too, is it's often near bathrooms, and it's hordes of people that are like kind of homeless in the sense that they have no direction and they don't know what they're doing. And I'm down there helping them, redirect them. But I think that there is really something to that. And the message that I've been given more about that consciousness is that the people that decided to take that in were already aligned. Obviously, we all know this, with the consciousness of that. Like they chose that for a reason. It was in resonance because something in them believes that the power outside of them is more powerful than the power of God inside of them, which is what all of this awakening is about, right? And so, you know, whether you die or you take the jab and then you're sort of like in another type of death, there is this disconnection. And so now you're operating in a collective consciousness with everyone else that's operating in that fear consciousness, which is why you took it in the first place. And what is fear? Fear is just an extreme consciousness of, I don't know that I'm a part of the great I am within. So they're kind of going through their own karmic, right, like recycling of, you have to go back to start is how I would say I'm seeing it. That being said, I also feel like some of us, we just work on many different multiple levels of consciousness when we're asleep, when we're awake, to kind of go, hey, you know, this is an illusion and you can sort of snap out of this at any time. But of course, the fact that they took this thing into their bodies, it rearranged their DNA. Yeah, I mean, that has a lasting effect. So I'm experiencing that as well, though.
For me, as a soul reader,
tunnels. Oh, sorry.
No, but darling, go ahead.
Very quickly, what you said about the tunnels. That's my friend phoned me up and he said, "Oh, I had this crazy dream, similar energy. You know, lots of people there gathered, and it was in a tunnel." And then that night, I had the same dream, going into the dumps and into the tunnels as well. So it's interesting you just mentioned that. I wonder if that is some kind of trap, you know, on the astral that is tunnel-like.
I think it is. Can I just share one little thing? I had a woman come to me that had been jabbed 4 times. She was on her way out. She was dying. Like, it was over. And, you know, I serve the divine feminine, masculine, the Christos, Sophia, the Christ, like that's, so I don't listen or even pay attention to the outer. I listen to that. And what I was told was, don't talk about don't talk about it with her. Bring her back to me. Bring her back to Christ within her. I am the only thing that can resurrect her now. And we worked together for like 4 months, and it was all about bringing her back to the Christ within. And she knew it because she'd been on that path before, years ago. And I was like, you're being called back home, and it's about God is using this to bring you back home. So that's where I'm sitting with. I can't get on board saying anything is more powerful than the power of the Christ God within us. And if anybody comes to me and they're like, I'm jabbed, you know, everybody has their own way it's playing out, but I'm not going to say, well, too bad. Like you're just deleted, right? Because I do believe that the power of Christ God within us that is resurrecting through the entire planet, which is also why we're seeing these very powerful earth changes. It's the energies that are changing it. It's coming through us, and those of us that are conduits of that Christ consciousness that are holding it for the planet, we are also the ones that are realizing more and more, I have to pull back from anything else because I have to stay in this space of non-duality and hold this for everybody else, because we're birthing the Christ consciousness baby. But at the same time, there are others that are birthing a different kind of baby. And if they want to keep birthing that other baby within themselves, which is that baby of fear and separation and anger and rage, we have to let them. But there is absolutely this new earth baby Christ consciousness that is absolutely birthing through us right now.
I'm so excited. Sorry, I have to butt in again. You just said something so amazing about the jabbed people becoming aware of that, of the inner, of who we truly are, the source energy, and that is the overriding of whatever black goo is working its way through the vessel. And I don't know if you've seen this video. Laura, you probably have. There's a video going around in, I think on BitChute or something, about a girl that's seemingly possessed. And there's a priest with her trying to exorcise whatever demon is in her. And he's asking her questions about the jab. And she's basically saying, she's talking about pharmakia. She's like, it's pharmakia.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah, and this is black magic. What they inject is black magic, and then eventually he asks her, so how is it overridden? And she's going, you can't. And then he goes, no, you have to speak the truth in the name of the Christ, blah blah blah.
That's right.
Finally, she bursts out that the word I don't remember the word she uses, but what it comes down to is that becoming aware of what they've done. Repent, she said, repent, but not as in being punished, repent, but more as realizing what you've done. You've given your power to something outside of yourself, and then reconnecting again with the I am presence, source energy.
Right.
Oh, totally.
Let's say
I'd love to chime in.
Go on. No,
go
I was
ahead.
going to say, let's just repeat that, because this is a law of the universe, as far as I understand as well, in like soul reading, that if you command by the power of absolute love or truth or Christ or whatever, that holy space, the command or the truth, sometimes you have to do it 3 times. 3 is the magic number.
Yeah.
They'll try and avoid and they'll try and wriggle out of it, but every single energy must reveal its truth. And so I really recommend that everyone practices that. Ask, what is the absolute truth? Not a version of the truth, the absolute truth. Ask 3 times. And if you're in any doubt, keep asking, what is the truth? and it will be revealed. Thank you. I wanted to make sure everybody got that message. Well done, Chrissy, for saying it.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add, I mean, everything is about belief. I mean, some people have a lot of confidence in that decision. Like, okay, I'm safe now, even though they realize that they're not. So that seems to be a quick fix for the fear that was generated. Okay, look at what they've provided for us, and this is the answer. I run across a lot of people that have a tremendous amount of confidence in that choice and seem to be okay, like it's sustaining them. And however that catches up with them, fine, but they haven't fallen into the duality. They haven't fallen into the, you're not welcome here because you didn't do it. They're not falling into, I think, the biggest weapon, which is the divide and conquer. It's going to separate families. You're going to lose those that you used to be close with, because this is the dividing factor. I feel that the ones that are holding love in their heart and saying, okay, I decided this, you decided that, let's not battle about who's right or wrong. This is what I'm comfortable with. This is what you're comfortable with, but we're still holding love. I feel that's the alchemical substance of how those will manage this, because if it were enough, and I say this kind of redundantly, if it was enough for them to get us with bioweapons or any form of what we ingest or breathe in or anything like that, they wouldn't bother with the indoctrination, the programming, and steering people into a low frequency, which is what AI is only able to assimilate. So you can be all loaded up with these things, but if you're in a vibration that calibrates to a frequency that's beyond the low vibration of divide and conquer, of misplaced anger, that is supporting movements that are like kind of psyops or sort of problem reaction solution, if you are, free of that, or you felt like you didn't have a choice, but you're still in a frequency of love and needing to accept that, feeling like you didn't have any choice, I feel the bioweapon alone is not enough. The belief systems, the indoctrination, and the low energy, the two go hand in hand. So I feel like the weapon is just a mechanism in order to keep a person hooked in. But once you unhook yourself and you can change your, frequency beyond it, a spiritualized body will recognize what's foreign and begin to change that frequency. Because if you look at what these things are made of, and what is streaming through to keep a person dependent on a vampiric system that relies on this to harvest energy, once you break that bond, I feel just like the MK Ultra people who have overcome the trauma-based mind control and being programmed to play a certain role for the dark side, once they snap free of it, they recover from all sorts of injections, all sorts of abuses, all sorts of, things that have brought them back into the field of love, into God source. And I think they are really showing us that if they're capable of doing it, the whole of humanity is capable of doing it. And once the mind control and the social engineering is broken, that will begin to shift, the frequency. Not for everybody, depending on if they already had, health issues, because it can exacerbate that. But I feel like it pushes everything to the surface to be dealt with once and for all. And in light of putting yourself in the ultimate crisis, can you break the spell? Like you're talking about with that possession, that redemption, that it's like overcoming the most abusive relationships or your own childhood wounds. If we are victimized by it, if we're in fear of it, if we're constantly seeking approval from outside of ourselves, we're never going to overcome what those things represented, which can lead to cancer, which can lead to having to kind of repeat things and maybe incarnate to face the same issues until we completely break free. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and also very, very awesome what you just said, because at the end of the day, it seems to keep coming back to the theme of externalization, looking outside of ourselves. That's something that keeps coming back. And I've also, I don't know if you've noticed that as well, but that seems to be an increase of people saying the only way out is through Jesus. And yes, I understand the Christ energy and I love the Christ energy and et cetera, but what is this whole thing where people get caught up in this eddy where all they can talk about is the only way out is through Jesus and there's no other way out? I mean, do you agree with that, or what is your view on that?
I think it's love is the way out.
I think it's becoming a Christed being and recognizing the mother and everything that we're made of and not putting it on one character and one beliefs. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Tara.
Well, it's personified, isn't it, through lots of different representations. That same, call it Christ energy, call it God, call it source, call it, we have our different nuances of it almost, and different personifications and identities. But at the end of the day, it's not something we can conceptualize or name, and we all know that. It's simply an isness, it's a feeling, it's a total connectedness and absoluteness and knowing that you can almost like not articulate. And so when we do refer to it as a name, and I know we have to name things, but it's like even that, to come back and just feel it, right? It's that feeling, it's that knowing, and nobody can take that away from anybody. That is always there, no matter how far away. Like you said, innocence can't be destroyed. The inner child, that childlike quality, that divinity, that love, that absolute unconditional love, that's the name that I call it, is always going to be there no matter what. And I was going to say before, like the way that I see people's energies is most people's spirits are not inhabiting, that they're not in their bodies anyway. Already people were like that. It's like a helium balloon with their spirit up there somewhere, vaguely attached into the body, so that there's only just about here. And the whole thing, we've talked about this before, is that embodiment. And Laura, you were talking about it, like clearing the way, clearing all the junk out, so that we inhabit ourselves again. We fully occupy ourselves, our spiritual body, our emotional, physical, mental bodies, that we receive that gift that we've been given. And the way to dispel the illusion and undo that conditioning and break the chains, and the whole thing, for me, my experience repeats consistently that it is absolute unconditional love. And that's why I bang on about self-love so much, because it's like any wounding inside of ourselves, any hurt, any betrayal, anything where we're in dissonance or in denial, we can bring consciousness to that by choice. We can bring love to that by choice. And that's an incredible power that every single human being has, no matter what's happened. And I also feel that I'm actually having so many dreams, apocalyptic dreams with AI bugs and AI nature and all kinds of weird apocalyptic dreams. And again, that consistent message in my dream has been, the only stability is inside of me. It's actually not outside of me. And what I'm seeing is as well, and I wonder how many of you are feeling this, and how many of our viewers, where it seems to happen, so many people around me right now are kind of uprooting and getting unattached to whatever was a sense of stability, a home, a job, a partnership, a money source, whatever it was, a belief. It's like we've been deconditioning, cleansing all of our belief systems. But also right now, it almost feels like roots up, everyone, because we're going to get moved. There's that sense of enormous flow. Yeah, you're nodding, because I'm feeling that massively. People around me are feeling that. And like I said, that, that kind of wake up alarm is like, we're going to be moved. And I have this reoccurring kind of vision as well, on message, that we are protected. We are all protected. But the shelter is in that absolute unconditional love, is here. It's plugging into here. And then there is that, the vision might be a protected dome around us while the apocalypse is going on outside, and the storms and the crazy stuff is happening. And when we buy into that, then it's like, yeah, we can get bashed around in the wind. We can get tossed around on the emotional waves. We can get hit by the frequencies. We can get hit by other people's energies. But in that protection, where we are protected now and always, is when we are connected with ourselves, when we're choosing that, and we're choosing that unconditional love. And there's so much grace in that. It's not like we constantly have to measure, am I this enlightened? Have I ascended this much? Have I embodied this much? Have I, because I'm seeing and hearing that a lot as well, this constant self-judging and self-measuring of how far along the path am I, or how much left have I got to go? And, that's just so human of us. We're always constantly mapping where we are in any one given moment. Even walking down the street, it's like, okay, that lamppost is there and that shop that I just left is there. It's like our brains are constantly mapping to orientate where we are. And I almost want to say, can we kind of just forgive ourselves and not do that anymore, and just say, maybe that's not even necessary to measure how ascended we are, or if I'm going to make it or not make it, or if that one jab is going to hurt me, or that, you know, it's actually just go, what's important right now? I am moment, this breath, this feeling that can't be defined, can't be personified. It just is. That safe harbor, and plug in there.
This is why it's so simple. This is what I meant with simplicity, is you are it already, and it's, you've never had to.
You never lost.
And I know that it sounds cliche, because I've heard it before, of, you know, years ago, spiritual teachers, you already are. And I was like, yeah. But I've really come to the realization it is that simple, and you are it already. And consciousness is only making you conscious of the fact that that's the case. That's what I meant with how simple it is.
Yeah, and it's maintenance. You don't arrive. Oh, sorry, keep going.
No, I'm done.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, it's maintenance. You don't just arrive and then you're done. It's tending to the garden. It's tending to, we see in the physical realm, it's obvious when, and I'll say this kind of redundantly too, when the dishes pile up. You can't really make the next meal very effectively if you still got the pots and pans and dishes from the night before. You have to kind of clear the table in order to create new, in order to give birth to something new. You want just the clearing. You know, what did you take on in the day? Where's your mental body overloaded, maybe with stress, or maybe with people's projections, or maybe with somebody else's trauma that you're, you know, assisting them through, that you might be processing still, or your own. I mean, where can we just give ourselves the cleansing and the purification from that, so that we can start anew the next day, and it's not accumulated to the point where we're energetically blocked, we feel drained, we feel overloaded. And returning to that unconditional love, being that source for others and being that source for ourselves, to me, is the true Christ consciousness. I think when you said about Jesus as Savior, a lot of that is religion. I mean, the true teachings of the Essenes and becoming a Christed being, those teachings kind of went out with the dark agenda. I mean, the true Essene gospel of peace says this: the law is living word of living God to living prophets for living men, and everything that is life is the law written. You find it in the grass, in the tree, in the river, in the mountain, in the birds of heaven, in the fishes of the sea. Seek it chiefly in yourselves, for I tell you truly, all living things are nearer to God than the scripture, which is without life. God so made life in all living things that they might, by the everlasting word, teach the laws of the true God to man. God wrote not the laws in the pages of books, but in your heart and in your spirit. They're in your breath, your blood, your bone, in your flesh, your bowels, your eyes, your ears, and in every living part of you. They are present in the air, the water, the earth, the plants, the sunbeams, in the depths and in the heights. Basically saying, you're not going to get it from a book. You're not going to get it from some angry religious person saying, if you don't turn to Jesus, you know, you will not be saved. I shared a blog about Mary Magdalene, and I got hit with a lot of people saying, we're really worried about you and your teachings. You need to be saved by Jesus. It's like, seriously, the Magdalene energy, you know, like expressing things about that is so far off base.
Wow.
And so I just love this from the Essene gospel of peace, because it's saying, you know, that's dead. That's from man. What is of God and of the true Christ consciousness is surrounding us in nature and in our soul. So I just wanted to validate all that.
I would love to jump in on this, Laura. Certain things, when you learn from the Holy Spirit Mother directly, not from what the patriarchal control or Roman Catholic Empire, when they burnt all the Cathars and they burnt the early true disciples of Christ. But when you have the true Holy Spirit Mother that has taken you out of the matrix, resurrects you, and you're now on the other side of the veil of it, and you're learning from her, and this is where I learned from, is Mary Magdalene and Yeshua were 100% married. They are one. And when he returns through the consciousness, he returns with her. But I have been so heavily attacked for that and called a witch. And so I need to share something with you guys. I have had profound encounters with Jesus, but it's not the Jesus of the patriarchal church. But because I was seeking community, I ended up going that direction. And I did because God sent me there for a reason. So recently was just like went into like a lot of some of the very like heavy prophetic deliverance churches in California, only to find out that there's African voodoo going on there. It's not real. These are false wonders and miracles. These are false deliverances. And so we're really in this time of extreme discernment right now of sorting out which Jesus are you talking about? Because when someone says, right, repent or you're going to hell, hell consciousness, there's a lot of people walking around in hell consciousness right now. But the Divine Sophia Mother, which was originally Ruach, and I would urge people to read Neil Douglas Klotz's The Aramaic Teachings of Jesus and to learn the original Aramaic translations, because to learn the secret gospels, like the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Magdalene, the Gospel of Philip. Because the truth is really there for those that are being led to find it. But Yeshua taught in frequency, sound, vibration, and consciousness. And the idea that we must be born again is essentially, he tore the veil. What is that veil? It's the veil that says, I don't have to stay in the matrix. I can exit the Garden of Eden that is now the inverted Garden of Eden through the Christ realized awakening within me. That's where we become born again through the Spirit of the Christ. And we're birthing this new earth consciousness. And we're sitting on the other side in the Garden of Eden, back to the beginning. This is how I personally feel. This is how I see it. And I feel like when we enter that place, we understand the kingdom is within. We're living from that place. We're not living believing there's any power outside of us that's more powerful than the power of the kingdom queendom within. And so I was told when I went through my experience in Paris, no one will make it through this time without me. But that was the Holy Spirit Mother, and it's a supernatural rebirthing. And by the way, I feel like it's kind of creation sorting through what is essentially going to be deleted and what is not. And I'm sorry to say that, but I am seeing that is what's happening. There's certain levels of consciousnesses that creation will not support anymore on this planet. So either you're going to get with the program, or you're going to get, hard, like, come on. And then if it's still no, I want to serve myself, you're not going to be able to be here anymore. I'm actually witnessing that personally around me. Yeah. I don't know, Laura, does that resonate with what you shared?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Really, I love what you shared. And yeah, I mean, there's so much peace that comes with it, and truth doesn't need to defend itself. Truth isn't, I feel a lot of people have a deep insecurity about their belief systems, that they fight harder for it because they have a deep down discomfort in a distortion that they can't really identify. And so they're likely to feel threatened by other people's awareness. They want to kind of go after it because deep down they're just really uncomfortable. Truth is accepting of diversity. It doesn't need to prove itself. It's just embodied. It's like in the knowingness. It feels confidence in what it's connected to, and appreciates that we all might have a unique way of expressing it for ourselves, and it's not threatened by it. And I feel that the ones that are really in the duality are unconsciously holding on to a lot of discomfort about the distortions they've bought into. And the body doesn't like it either. That's why the body responds with anxiety, unwellness. And we all experience that as humans, but is that helping us to get to know ourselves better? Is it helping us to dig deep into the root of it? Or are we giving our power away, hoping to just make it go away, when those are the initiations and the signals our bodies are giving us to wake up? It wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't show up as a discomfort unless we had something to learn from it. And it being masked with pharmaceuticals, it being masked with just diagnoses that people carry like it's their identity, when it's an initiation and a chance to actually grow and break patterns and get into your truth. So your body is like, wow, this is so comfortable, like the unconditional love. Like this is where spirit feels the hospitality of your body versus this is too uncomfortable. But spirit and soul are going to be outside the body because it's inhospitable with toxicity, belief systems that are distorted. Spirit can't occupy that. Soul has a hard time occupying that. So that is just in addition to what you were saying. I don't.
Yeah.
That's truth to me, what you've both said. 100% truth to me. And when you were reading the Essenes text, there's I would really recommend the Nag Hammadi text as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the most amazing descriptions of well, non-descriptions really of God, you know, because what the text is basically saying, there's no way you can describe it. But to me, when I hear you both, the only thing that I can conclude again is going from externalization to finding that consciousness within, that Christ consciousness within, and then the true earth can start coming through. You know, David's been writing he's written a book, The Trap, and a new one coming out, The Dream, and what he basically talks about, and this is also said in the Nag Hammadi text, is that this place, this matrix, is a fake copy of Prime Earth, the real one. And considering the fact that things aren't over there, everything is here, this Prime Earth is obviously here as well, and it just wants to come through with us on it, hopefully.
I think we'll definitely be on it. We're not going anywhere.
No.
And we've spent all this time getting our spirits and our souls like fully anchored in, like seat belted in to Mother Earth for this ride. So I'm just aware of time, sisters. I know we could keep talking for days and days. There's so many topics to cover. Yeah, is there anything that, I mean, I almost ventured up into Atlantis then, and then talking into, you know, communities, all kinds of things, right? Maybe let's do that another time. I just want to know if there's anything that you want to share right now that feels pertinent, maybe for any energies that you're sensing coming up in the next couple of weeks until we connect again, or any advice that, I mean, everything I think there's been incredible wisdom shared here. But any other advice you want to give people?
I would just say that I've been seeing some things that are coming, and those things from a duality standpoint could be judged as very scary. But the message I've been given is to accept that even that is a part of bringing our mother's chickens back to her. And sometimes they have to come through these events that are quite dramatic. Let's just call them those. So, and then also what appears to maybe be another time out, but to start looking at everything as, okay, God, Mother, Father, our divine infinite light parents are in control all the time. And so even though this drama looks like, oh, it's another controlled lockdown or we're being attacked, on a higher level, we're actually not, because grace is allowing all of this to play out. So if we can see it from that perspective and go, what is the gift in this? We can see it without fear and trust that anything that we're going through or anything that the planet is going through, and you know, that includes Maui, it's all for the awakening to lead everyone back to our divine mother and father. And from that place, we don't need to get upset. We can stay in peace, and we don't need to go into fear or believe that there's a power outside of us that has more power than creation does over everything it created. So I just, that's just brought me personally so much peace, and then understanding and knowing I am holy ground, and therefore everywhere I stand on holy ground. And there's no power outside of me that's more powerful than the power of the Mother, Father, God, Christ realized within me. I feel like the more we all come to that, it will be easier to get through all of this.
Wow.
Yes, yes.
I felt that one big time, and I've been experiencing the grace as well, that within all the absurdity and within that 0 point energy, there is that grace, and it does feel like holy ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina.
That was beautiful.
By the way, do you think Mother Earth is suffering and sick? Just quickly.
I feel like
You
there
can't
is.
answer that quickly. That's a big one.
It is. It's a can of worms, isn't it?
It's a good one.
I've got some thoughts on that, unless somebody wants to take it first, and then I'll say my final words.
Go for it. Go, Lorna.
Yeah,
Go.
I feel, you know, we're multidimensional beings. There's aspects of our body that goes into that zone. Our higher aspects, like Nina was saying, I mean, we're experiencing physicality and we're witness to it, but we're also in it. And in observing what needs to happen in order to heal, we take action. But it's encoded in nature to create equilibrium, to create balance. When something gets cut, it's encoded in us to know to heal it without having to command, like when we cut our skin, that it's going to form into a scar or just go away completely and totally. So I feel that we're walking this part of Mother Earth energies with Mother Earth. We're elemental. Our nucleic acids and our DNA are earth, air, fire, water, ether. Now the mitochondrial DNA coming back online is helping us to purify the mother energy, being anchored back into the planet in way more of a stronger way than it has been, with all the reversal grid energies, all the different Baphomet, just the fallen aspects of Sophia, the Achamoth, and that being leveraged to birth archonic, you know, entities. I think, you know, the portion of the divine feminine that's gone into the underworlds, the Persephone going into the depths, and then, you know, how it's encoded in nature to come back in the spring, or the maiden mother crone, right? I think that there's a place of suffering that wisdom is born from, and that Mother Earth shows in her cycles that she regenerates. Things die and she comes back. Things are tarnished, but there's higher earth energies to strive for, where we're not witness to what we're a part of, because we've cleared the mind control and the distortions, and we can perceive of a world that the weapons don't exist anymore because they've been impacting us and Mother Earth. So I think it's we move on to different levels of her multidimensional body as we shift within ourselves, but we do have agreements to be witness to this aspect of this density, to be in service, but also wherever we still have room to grow in our own being. And I guess that's what I want to leave on, is the planetary aspects, the astrological aspects. Here we are with the full moon, and you know, the Pisces Virgo integration of polarity would be the physicality is integrated with the multidimensionality, which Neptune represents, the unseen realms, the multidimensional. Anchoring heaven on earth is to open up the physical vessel to all possibility. You know, we're stargates. We open up our consciousness to the creative imagination. We can infuse the physical with our dreams and visions and manifest it and take those seeds within our being to give birth to it, versus allowing the dark seeds to get into our creative channels and infect it with enabling the very things that we don't want, which leads to suffering and leads to the world that we're witnessing. So I feel it's all encoded in nature to step into a place where she's not in that state, but as long as she is, sort of we are, and we're healing together by awakening aspects of ourselves that may be asleep or dormant. But happy full moon, everybody. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Laura, that was an incredible, the way you put things is so incredible.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm just like,
what?
wow, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, guys. I feel that way about all of you. I just love being in these circles with you. It's just like, especially on a day like this.
Feels like winding up a singing bowl or something, doesn't it? It's the frequency is just getting woo, like really, really amazing.
Because it starts all sort of like, okay, here we are, da da da, and then we can start going. And you're right, it's like, boom, boom. Now we're sort of ending on a really, I feel like this is a really wholesome way to end it personally, because it's just so many nice nuggets have been shared.
So much so. Yeah. so I'm in agreement. I always, when my communications with Gaia and the Divine Mother is like, we've got this sorted. We're the parents. You're the children. We're the parents. They baby proofed. They toddler proofed Earth, right? And it looks like we're destroying the place. And I have great faith in this, because I know sometimes you can think it's horrifying. When you see the things that are going on, and for a moment, like, oh my gosh, that's real. Wow, that pain, that suffering, those people, that, what's going on with the earth. And then it's like, pull focus and remember, like, come out of that trap, because that's where the matrix is, right? It's actually everywhere, but it's a mind infestation. And it's like to just pull focus and go, no, we're here for a divine reason. Our divine parents, our creators, our creator source, divine mother, father, they've got this covered. There's covers on the plugs. We're not going to blow ourselves up. And it looks like it, but we're not. And to have total trust and faith in that. And yes, learn, clean up our acts. Like what Laura said. I could never say it as incredibly as you did. Exactly like that. But ultimately, my message I want to leave on is something that came through the other day, is that there's so much focus on no, I do not consent. I'm not going to be part of this. No, no, no. The boundaries, the barriers, this is what I don't want. And it seems super juicy, abundant, gorgeous, fruitful, everything that we want, to just notice the yes that's hanging there, like the things that the low-hanging fruit, the things that are coming into our inspiration and into our dreams and into our visions, and the things that stir us and inspire us and make us feel good, whatever that is, say yes to it. Yes. Do I want to co-create heaven on earth with my brothers and sisters and drink pure water? Yes, I do. Do I want to, have a beautiful community, a beautiful family around me? Yes, I do. Do I want to grow vegetables? Yes, I do. Whatever it is, do I want to heal my body? Yes, I do. Say the yes. Feel in alignment with the yes. And that feels like a very simple way of just, rather than getting tangled up in the navigation of choices and what do I believe and what don't I believe and what's real and what isn't real, just we can simply feel into, oh, that would be nice, I'd like that, and just go with the yes and keep choosing the yes. And that way you end up always being where you want to be, in a situation that you're saying yes to, with the people that you're saying yes to. And it feels so much easier to flow down that river than it does to resist and all of those other things.
Thank you, Tara, because it's so easy to get disillusioned in this absurdity that we're seeing. It's so easy to just let it all go, and in a way it's good to let it all go, but at the same time also just be with that yes of.
I think everyone sort of said it in different words. It's like holding that vision, holding that vibration, holding that frequency. You've all said it in different ways, of like just being in that present moment and in this conscious now reality that is now. It's the constant now. It's the future is now. It's not something that it doesn't have to be a million miles away. It's like, yes, we're still in a world where there's other things going on around us and other people's, how many 8 billion different versions of reality going on around us. But it's like we can be in that place of, well, I'm choosing love and I'm saying yes to love. I'm saying yes to humanity, being awake and being happy and, a healthy planet, a healthy world. I'm just choosing that. I'm saying yes. And then being moved by that flow and trusting in that. And right now, I left my flat like a couple of weeks ago. I was like, I don't want to be locked into a contract. I don't want to have myself in a box, 4 walls and like kind of attached into something. It doesn't feel right. I feel like we are being moved. I am being moved and I don't know where. And I'm like in this river of energy, just my arms full out like this, just like floating along. I'm going somewhere. I don't know where, but I'm saying yes because it feels nice. And I'm just choosing that. So whatever version of that. you know, trusting the flow, trusting that grace.
So huge. I'm working on that all the time.
We all are. It's we're all becoming constantly, aren't we? It's like doing the dishes. Like you said, it's a brilliant analogy. You don't just do it once and it's done. If only. Chrissy,
That's good. That's
Huh?
a good one. Yeah, the message that I got during the Lion's Gate was you've exited Earth 2 and you've entered Earth 1. So this goes way back to, I had a hypnosis regression session, but it was like you're on Earth 2, but you're split in two. Part of you is here, part of you is on Earth 1. You're going to come into a time where the soul group that you came in with, you're all going to align with Earth 2 and 1 in the heart. But Earth 1 is a lot easier. And so it's an interesting thing because I think that someone who's still on Earth 2 or is through their own mirror seeing pain, trauma, fear, they're going to project onto Mother Earth the pain, trauma, and the fear. But someone who is in oneness consciousness with our Mother, Father, God, understanding they created everything, it belongs to them. And we have this little drama playing out below, but there's still all the stars in the sky and the sun is still coming up and there's still all the grass and they're fully in complete and total control. And so the more you become like a child and trust that you're like a little chickling in that nest of your divine parents, you really come more into that Earth 1 place of I'm here on the new Earth right now. And what's funny is that when you come into that place, I think there sometimes is a physical relocation. That's what I'm experiencing. It was like you're not in resonance anymore with the consciousness in this physical place on the planet where everybody's really caught in, like, we're the light workers and we're going to destroy the darkness, because you're not operating there anymore. For you, you exited the battle, the warrior mentality. And now you've entered into Earth 1. So sometimes we do get relocated. So I think that I'm totally experiencing that, Tara, where it's like, you're being uprooted, darling, for me to relocate you to where the consciousness is operating more in the oneness consciousness on the planet right now. And I think that's just gorgeous.
Expect me on your sofa very soon, Nina.
Yes, absolutely.
Or Laura.
I'm preparing tea right now.
Wow.
Oh man, what an
Christina?
incredible time together. Gosh.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything? I think we've
No,
all...
I'm basically sort of like speechless because the way you're all putting things into words, it's, you know, a lot of the time now I hear people talk and I go, yeah, sure. I've had that a lot. And in this circle, I've been hearing you talk and I've actually gone, yes. Oh, wow. Oh, the way you just said that. And I haven't had that for a while. So it's been really, really fulfilling and amazing. Thank you. That's all I've got to add. Yes, thank you for coming together. Thank you for doing this.
Are we going to
Yes,
do
let's do it again soon.
Yeah. I think
Uplifts me and just feels so much better.
it makes us feel great, and I know that people feel great as well. So share the video if you like this video. Do I need to say that?
Do some promotion.
Like, share, and subscribe.
What is that anyways? Yeah, it's just we'll give it to our divine parents and we'll let them they'll do a better job with it anyways.
Love you guys. See you soon.
See you soon.
Love you guys.
Take care.
Love you too.
Mhm.